Welcome to another episode of the Soul Driven Podcast, where we explore the essence behind the excellence and the soul behind the success. I'm your host, Colette Davenport, and today I am joined by Tristan Gutner. Hello there, Tristan.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on today. I'm excited to dive in with you. So, start us off. Share with the audience just a little bit about what you do in the world.
Yeah, super briefly, because I'm sure we'll dive into a lot of nuance. I work with entrepreneurs, entertainers, athletes, like anyone who has big goals, big dreams, and is like deep in the pocket of going after that thing. And they'll bring me into life and business because they do have an understanding that to get where they want to go is a strategy involved, of course. But the first strategy, the first cause is happening within themselves. And so they already have some sense of that. And they bring me in there to see what would need to shift and how we can shift that stuff the most quickly and easily to allow success, whatever they define success as, to be easy and natural and abundant for them.
Love that. Yeah, and so needed. I know that for myself, I've always hired coaches or other people to model that which I'm aspiring to bring into to my reality. So I definitely want to dive into that with you. Before we do, though, I'm going to shut off my camera so that I can drop in and speak from the soul. And you're welcome to join, but do whatever you prefer. All right?
Yeah, I'll follow your lead. Perfect.
Cool. All right. Okay, so first things first, I am super curious to know what the phrase soul driven means to you.
What a great question to start with. My belief, my experience is, we're obviously more than these human bodies and that greater part I think we call a soul. Many people do. And I do think we come here with a mission, implanted in our soul, implanted in our DNA. And it's literally the reason like we come into a body. And for some of us, right, you and I included for sure, entrepreneurship is the vehicle or a vehicle for that mission. For me, I have a really deep passion for helping people. I want people to succeed. And again, whatever that means to them, but I want them to live their soul's mission, their dream, whatever that vision is in their hearts. My entrepreneurship is just a vehicle to serve people in that way because it's what my soul is here to do.
I love that. And I also find that when one sort of soul awakens or sort of comes online, right? When we align with that mission, when we discover what it is, we say yes to it, and then we take action in alignment with it, that activation within ourselves tends to have the greatest impact on the other people in our lives. And so I'm curious to explore the origin of that activation for you. Like when was that first call to adventure from your soul received, or however you might language that, right? You get what I'm putting down here.
Oh yeah, I sure do. I like how you speak. Yeah, it really delights me. The first time I can remember was I was really young. I remember I was in my parents' bathroom. I was taking a shower. I don't know if I was like 4 or 5 or something, but I literally remember asking this question that was like, it was something like, why do I think my own thoughts, but other people like Colette thinks her own thoughts, and we're not like I don't have access to her mind. She doesn't like, why are we individuated? I didn't have the language for that. But I just remember standing there being like, this is weird. Like, why? What is this? And I tried to like ask an adult about it, and they were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That was the first instance where I just had this sense of like, okay, there's something more going on here. Yeah, and then it started to awaken for me a little bit more as a late in my late teens and early 20s. As I just sort of have different experiences in consciousness and started to study consciousness through music, through nature. For me, psychedelics was a part of that for a specific part of my life. And it's not something I necessarily like endorse for people or don't, but for me, it did open doors. but it happened piece by piece for me. It wasn't like one fell swoop.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always curious about that because some of these great awakening type stories are very compelling, but in my instance, and it sounds like yours as well, it's just been a slow trickle,
For
a
sure.
trickle that leads to the next level that then I think I've got something figured out, and then boom, hit a wall, and here comes the next level. So
Yeah, and I think it's, for some people it is like a big bang happening. It's like one event, one moment, and everything changes. I think it's important to note though that more often than not, it's not like that. It is a slow drip. It is a trickle. It's piece by piece, and neither one is better than the other. But I do think there's a certain allure to our ego
yeah,
to have it be this big opening where in 1 second everything changes, because the other path requires more patience. It requires faith in a different way. It requires us to trust step by step by step. And again, I don't think one's better than the other, but I do think a lot of us want it to be this great awakening that happens in one moment because there is an allure. But I think for most people, it actually isn't like that. And it's okay however it unfolds for people.
yeah, yeah. I love that you made that distinction, and I too support that. Do you find, super curious about this, do you find when it is this sort of slow, ongoing investigation, reflection, awakening, or awareness that unfolds, that there's a tendency for fear or doubt or uncertainty uh, to create roadblocks or challenges?
I do, and I would also say if it were the Big Bang model, like one moment changes your life forever, there can be fear and doubt in that, and there's a massive amount of recalibration required very quickly if something shifts that quickly in our consciousness. And I do agree with what you said, like when it's piece by piece, you put it very beautifully where it's like, okay, I see that puzzle piece. Okay, I got that figured out. And then God comes in and is like, well, we didn't really have it figured out. That was like the next piece of awareness, but you're also going to have to let go of that or allow it to evolve or whatever. And so I think either path, I can really only comment on my own, but I do think either way it works. It is requires a lot of faith and a lot of courage to keep waking up, to keep growing, to keep remembering who we are at deeper and deeper layers, because yeah, we're letting go of each step along the way. We're letting go of the safety within the identity of that moment. Like, okay, I'm now Tristan who knows and believes this and that and the other. Okay, I'm calibrated here. I'm grounded here. I know what's going on. To grow more requires to let go of the perceived safety of that certainty. And I think that clinging to that safety and that certainty is one of the things that makes both growth in consciousness and growth as an entrepreneur difficult. Just requires a lot of letting go consistently. I see a lot of people get tripped up in that.
Yeah, I'm definitely one for the scenic path. But god damn, I want to get to the destination every so often
Of
and
course.
enjoy the view. It's it's interesting too because my experience of society is there is high valuation on certainty, identity, knowing who you are, what you're up to, why you're doing it, especially as an entrepreneur. And I know that one of the challenges that I face as an ever evolving entrepreneur, especially in this space of consciousness, um, is that the answer to those questions, what do you do, who do you do it for, and why, I don't have the perfect little packaged responses to that because it's much broader and intangible. So for someone listening who might also be experiencing that, who is in spiritual space, who wants to bring that light within them to the world, what would you say to that person who maybe is having a hard time touching in on those answers for themselves as well?
It's a really great question. I relate to what you shared about your own journey with it because I've certainly been through my own, like many, many iterations of it. And something I tell all of my clients, because many of them have had a challenge with the same thing, is like speak as clearly and simply as you can about who you are and what it is you do. And I would say worry less about nailing the one or two sentences, the elevator pitch, and focus much more on the energy behind what you say. And I don't mean to be vague by saying that, but like for instance, if someone asks me what I do, I could in a pretty long-winded way talk about coaching and the nuance of it and who I work with and why I work with them. And that may or may not land for someone, but I could also go, you know, that one area of your life or your business where you just know you're meant for more. And if you're being honest with yourself, it really hurts that you don't yet have that thing or you're not at that place yet. And if someone's being honest, they're gonna say yes because everyone has that place. I might just look someone in the eye very vulnerably and go, yeah, I help people with that. And sometimes that speaks volumes in a way that going on with the perfect words about what I do
Yeah,
never would. So I would just recommend to speak from your heart and let that gift inside you that wants to go serve people, let God working through you that wants to go serve people through you speak, even if it doesn't sound super advanced or eloquent or sexy in the way you might want it to. Trust that that energy is going to speak to someone's heart and the right people are going to hear it. And
love that. And I'll take that as a reminder to myself as well. What has been a nemesis that has arisen for you that you've confronted?
oh my God, so many. And it's not like they don't still come up, so I'll just lead with that. Like if we're being real about our experience, everyone has things that come up no matter how long we've been doing it or how successful we may or may not be. One of the big ones for me was one of the things that was modeled to me growing up unintentionally, right? It was implicit, not explicit, but was like, don't rock the boat. You don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. You don't want to say or do anything that rubs someone the wrong way or they feel is inappropriate in some way, shape, or form. And I had a lot of my sense of safety wrapped up in if people liked me or not. And that sounds maybe simple on the surface and it is, but it was it was deep. It was emotional. Like if someone didn't like me, it felt like almost traumatic. And I don't use that word lightly. Like I would feel shaky in my body. I would feel like almost a sense of terror and I didn't quite know why. So that was something, especially when I was starting my business, uh, that was incredibly challenging for me and so rewarding to move through. And I remember it was like one specific 2 week period. I was having a really tough month in my business. I don't think I'd had any money come in. I was talking to a mentor, and they just helped me look at the part of myself that was scared to allow things to change. And I just remember it was pretty short, but it was really deep. A conversation I had with myself and the little child inside me who was just terrified to say or do the wrong thing. And I just had a real heart to heart with him. And I was like, hey, man, I hear you're scared. I see it. And the safety we're looking for isn't going to come from shutting down. It's going to come from moving forward. And we just had a sort of understanding. And in two weeks right after that, I doubled my highest month of income and I did it in 2 weeks. And it was really eye opening, not really about the money, but the way that it happened. I had opportunities all around me that I just wasn't willing to see because in order to act on them, I had to take that risk of saying or doing the wrong thing, really putting myself out there. So I couldn't even see the opportunities until I reconciled that thing within myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the heart of the work that I do as well, is to diagnose and quote unquote heal what I call a soul wound. It's beyond our logical mind. Like you said, it was real deep. You didn't even realize it was there, and it's there on purpose.
Hmm.
It's not there to keep you small, although it will if you never turn toward it, right? But it's there to expand you. It's there for the purpose of spiritual growth. And I've certainly found through the vehicle of entrepreneurship, this is a great path to discover that soul wound. What a wonderful thing to get um, to play with, so to speak, so that you can fulfill your soul's mission.
That's a really nice way to speak about it too. Like the way you hold that, the way you talk about it, your whole energy around it. Like it's not this scary thing to be avoided. You use the phrase "turn to it," turn towards it. Like yeah, it's so beautiful. The second we put our attention there without judgment, we have this amazing opportunity to heal and to grow and to move forward. And it really is there for us, even though it so often feels like it's there against us or something
Yeah,
happening to
yeah,
us. Yeah.
yeah. So that's what I like to say, right? Before you have understood this thing, before you've come face to face with it, and while it is a little confrontational, it's the best kind of confrontation. But until you have that face to face with this misidentification, right? This misunderstanding, it will fuck shit up. That's
Big
its
time.
job.
Yep.
It will mess with you. It will create problems and patterns on repeat for you to turn toward it.
That's right.
But how many people are taught to do that, Tristan?
Oh, almost none of us. I mean,
Right.
and very innocently, most of us are taught to run the fuck away from it because it's
Mm-hmm.
scary and it's threatening. But really, the threat is that it's going to ask us to change and upset that sense of balance we've established. Even if within the balance we're miserable, we tend to choose the balance over the unknown. Some that stuck out to me so much about the way you said that too, Colette. Everything you've said in the past 3 4 minutes is like when you label it as a soul wound or just have the idea of the soul in there, it's beyond the intellect. And I do
Yes.
think the intellect has a role to play. It's helpful to be able to label things and name things and understand, but what I do think is often very challenging for people, myself included, is this is emotional healing. This is subconscious healing. It's beyond what the intellect knows or can do. And so, by that very nature, it requires letting go. It requires surrender to do this work because we cannot control it with our intellect. And I do think that's where a lot of people tend to stop because if we can't use our intellect to do something, it tends to feel incredibly scary.
Agreed. When I was exploring that for myself and the term soul wound, I had someone say to me, "But the soul isn't wounded. The soul is perfect in its infinite nature." And I said, "I completely agree." And this wound, this mechanism, if you will, is what gives rise to the sense of ego or identity or humanness. And so it's a it's a distortion that translates the infinity of God, of soul, of being into the limited sense of self.
Hmm.
But it's a portal, so it kind of goes both ways, right?
Yes,
In
exactly.
one direction, it shuts its infinite nature off from itself. But in the other direction, this is why turning toward it is the the holy grail of the human condition, in my opinion. Turning toward it opens the door to experiencing that infinite nature, which again, yes, the intellect cannot abide in that.
Mm-mm.
It literally, by definition, the two cannot know one another intellectually.
Yeah, no
This
way.
is experiential.
Yes, exactly. And you put it really beautifully. Like it is a portal. Yeah, the soul is infinite. It's perfect. Nothing God creates could be different than that. And we're having an experience that it is different and turning towards this material within ourselves. If we're able and willing to do it and walk all the way through and not stop, it is a portal to awareness. We do turn around and go, "Oh my God, I am an eternal, an infinite, a blessed child of God. Oh my God, I am. I forgot. It's like when we, like, I've had this experience that I'm about to say a couple times, and I've seen other people have it as well. It's like when we want to build our faith, let's say, we're like, God, can you help me grow my faith? And God's like, oh, of course, dude, I got you. But little do we know that, like, the opportunity to do that might be fucking challenging. It might appear as loss or misfortune or defeat or whatever, not because God is testing us. That's not really how I tend to think about things. But it's like the opportunity to remember who we are often comes moving through something very challenging. It's like sometimes you don't know the edge of your faith until that's all you have to lean on, for instance.
Right. Well said. Beautifully said. Um, and it's like it makes me think of this a metaphor where you don't look under the hood of your car until you hear some funky noise going on.
That's right. Exactly.
So when life is going good, you don't sort of stop to see what could be better. You enjoy
Yeah,
the goodness of it.
correct. And it's when things are going really well, I want things to go well for everybody, of course, and I believe they generally can and get better and better and better. And w- when we're only looking deeply within ourselves or deeply towards God's spirit source when things are challenging, that's not, I don't think that's like the highest form of our self-expression, our soul expression. And if we're only looking under the hood when there is a problem, I think that's an opportunity to grow. It's something I remind my people of all the time. It's like, if you're going to turn to God when things are really challenging, which is beautiful, please do that. Also turn to God when things are amazing. Also,
Yeah,
continue to look within yourself when things are incredible. Go, thank you, thank you, thank you. May I please have more? I wonder how much easier I could allow it to be even from this amazing point. I think it's so important to break a pattern that a lot of us have, which is we only look within when things are really challenging, instead of also looking within when things are amazing, instead of also being grateful when things are incredible, not just when we experience relief in a challenging moment. Like we're supposed to live in that internal and eternal connection all the time, not only when things are challenging.
I agree. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. That might be one of the most profound outcomes of to use the phrase, when I turn to God, when I turn within, um, was precipitated by, or it's not just once, but has been precipitated by enormous challenge. And the most, I don't know, enjoyable, satisfying, fulfilling outcome of that for me wasn't when the relief was given. It was the the experience of peace, even in the shit show, even in the
Mm,
breakdown. And
mm.
so that's something that I go to God for daily and throughout the day, to maintain that connection, that sense of peace within myself. Um,
That's so beautiful.
because that's where I realized, oh, it's not like the first few times. Yes, it appeared the relief that was the primary outcome that I was celebrating, but the peace without that physical outcome, let's say,
Yeah.
was the big win. And it's like I don't have to have challenge. I don't have to have you know relief in order to experience that peace.
that's that's so great. Really covering it on both ends. Yeah, I don't require challenge in order to experience its opposite, peace, nor do I need relief when there is challenge to experience peace. Like I just get to live in peace, period.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's so
yeah.
profound.
That's why. Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring that up, because that was the
Love that.
biggest thing that stuck out to me through
Mm.
this process. So I want to explore a little bit about how the nemesis and has impacted the work that you do with others who are facing challenge.
Yeah. If I may, I'd like to use another example because I think it would help people even more.
Go for it.
Yeah, this was farther into the past, but it was a moment where everything felt like it was breaking down for me. And one of the most challenging moments was my then partner wanted to leave, and we were sort of in the process of breaking up. I was just looking around, right, at the like solid things in my life, partnership, business, whatever it was, and they all felt like they were crumbling, but the relationship changing, I was like in tears every night. I was like literally crying myself to sleep. I've never had that experience before or after, not like this. And I just had this moment weeks into this process. It was that night. I remember it like literally like it was yesterday. And I felt so unlovable, just so unlovable. And this person leaving was just shining a light on that. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. I was like, oh my God, I don't feel lovable at my core. And I also don't know how to love myself. So I'm just like, I'm trying to bring anyone in to fill that void. And in that moment, something really hit me. And it was, it's a true grace of God moment, because this didn't come from within me. I had no way of knowing this, but I just had the awareness, like, change that story and your whole life will start to change. Because what I had been doing was just essentially going, oh, I'm not lovable, and then feeling terrible about it and crying. And then the tears would lead back to the story. Oh, I'm not lovable. And feel it was just this never ending recycling loop of misery. And in that moment, it just hit me like, it's not that I'm not lovable, it's that I have a story. I'm not lovable. Okay. So now we have something to like build on. And I remember in that moment, it wasn't like all my pain went away, but it shifted enough where I felt some relief. I felt some peace. And I just made it my mission from that moment on for like the next 2 months to do whatever I knew to do to start building the belief within myself that I'm lovable, that I deserve love. And it wasn't like everything shifted in the moment. It was slow. It was moment by moment, thought by thought. It was staring at myself in the mirror, telling myself that I am lovable, and it was very uncomfortable. But it eventually, a couple months in, all of these things that had been crumbling started to rebuild. And a couple months at the time felt like a really long time, but in hindsight, it's very quick to have an almost complete turnaround in every aspect of life. And to me, that's the core of my work now. It's our results are never going to outpace the story we tell about ourselves. Like that narrative that we hold about ourselves operates in the background, and it becomes operating system of everything we experience in our life. So when people come to me, for instance, and they want to grow their income, like, fantastic, that's certainly possible, or whatever it is. If the dream is there, it's possible. And my mission is to help someone find whatever story they've been unconsciously telling themselves that's keeping their results where they are. Because the second the story shifts, it allows the results to change too. They'll, in fact, just change automatically once the story does. So, my work now is just helping someone identify that narrative and just change it. And even a slight shift in the narrative and in awareness around it creates massive, massive results. I always tell people, like, I just want to make a micro adjustment
Yeah,
in the story you tell yourself. And if you're willing to do that, your results will go massive, go nuclear.
I love that. I Do you have any type of system or anything specific that you do, or is it sort of a fluid exploration of that with the client?
So I'll say yes to both of those. I don't have a fixed system, meaning like, hey, I learned this one system and it's what I use for everybody. Um, I've just amassed over, 15 years of doing this, everything that's worked for me. And now I have that in this sort of customized toolkit that I will then use with everybody else. But I never ask someone to do something I haven't done, that I tested in the laboratory of life, so to speak. Um, and I always do tell anyone who's working with me, like, this is tried and tested and it works. And you're going to have a lot of faith, because it's also not cookie cutter. It is customized to each person, because everyone's at a very different place in their journey. So what one person might need the first time I talk to them, another person might not be ready for until the 10th or vice versa.
Yep, I get that.
Is that how you
I
work as well?
Yes, and even before I was coaching, I developed a method, and of course, it's been refined over the last decade plus. But I developed a method for personal use that would help me um, like go from being triggered to being centered in a really rapid amount of time. Because what I found was that initial awareness of that story or that narrative, it was helpful to know it, but I needed something I could apply in real time to help me not spiral out, stay focused, remain in the truth of who I am versus the wounded ego version of me reacting to a negative situation. So
Mm,
instead of being talking about this conceptually, I'll share a specific with you because I would love to hear your reflection on this. And the method that I developed starts with the diagnostic of what that soul wound is, because in my experience, the story I'm unlovable isn't enough to stop the behavior that comes from that. Now, I'm just speaking from my own experience. It wasn't enough for me to have a general concept of a negative self identity. And so the diagnosis of the soul wound gets to this illogical, unreasonable, unique to me. It's very specific and it's cruel. So instead of something like I'm unlovable, my soul wound is I'm an ugly, disgusting waste of time,
whew,
right?
yeah.
When I landed on that, Tristan, I felt like I got kicked in the gut and was just doubled over on the floor in tears once that landed for me because it felt so true. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that is who I think I am. That is, the silent whispers that has been acting out in these volcanic eruptions toward my intimate partner for some stupid shit. It makes no sense. Again, this is incredibly illogical and yet at play behind the scenes. So that diagnostic of that specific, unique, and cruel identity statement was the game changer for me. And then I've got a few other steps that actually get to what is the truth. And I know I can say this to you. The truth is I am. And we
Yeah.
could just stop there, but I could
Period.
add, wonderful things to say after that.
Yeah.
But that I amness as the infinite being, as an extension or expression of God. And so really knowing that, not just convincing myself or my ego of that, but feeling it, being it, living from it, and then responding to that situation from that place.
Yes.
That changed the game for me. And so to circle back, that's a framework that I use, and the way that gets rolled out in the integration of what comes from that's very fluid.
Mm. I love that you're ultimately like you're getting people to a starting place where they can respond as and from the truth of who they really are, and then going wherever it needs to go from there. Because if we're not starting from there, it's a tough road ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of the truth. And I've had, people, truth is, there is no ultimate truth. Well, there actually is one that we can experience, every single one of us. And that one universal truth is I am. We all have that experience. Now, what comes after the words I am, that's the interpretation.
Bingo.
But starting from the truth, then we can, color and I like to say dress in whatever outfit we
Yeah,
want.
we get to choose from that point
Yes.
forward. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this just came up.
Yeah, I'm so
I'm
curious
curious.
what you're about to say.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. because I got this hit, and I was like, well, I'm not going to ask that.
Woo, let's go.
I know, right? Talk to me about truth as you know it.
That's a good question. Or a good prompt. I think we all have different words we're gonna put on it. And I'm not really here to tell someone what the truth is. I'm not really that interested in that. Because like you said, if it doesn't land experientially for someone, it's just another idea that someone's trying to live up to or meet in some way, shape, or form. And at a very experiential level, beyond any reading, beyond any thing we can learn with our mind, I think we've all had at least a moment in our life where we're at God consciousness, where we're at 0 point. And maybe it wasn't lasting, right? It might have just been a blip on the radar during meditation or whatever the causality or the trigger was. But in that moment, there is a foundational peace, there is a foundational love, there is a foundational knowing beyond the intellect of being at one with that which created us and all things. And we call that thing God, and I don't really care what anybody calls it, but to me, that is the truth. When every narrative falls away, when the ego is not barking anymore, when the intellect's not talking anymore, there is a core experience of peace, of love, of provision, of support. And that is us linking with God, divine consciousness, etc. And I could, right, talk about that a lot in my own experiences and witnessing other people in that state. And right now, I don't really feel called to because I'd prefer someone to have their own experience of that. But to me, that's the truth we are all remembering and that we're all doing our best to get back to underneath all these ideas we have about ourselves.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I want to shift gears just a slightly here
Yeah.
and probe your heart a little bit when it comes to this intersection of ambition and self-awareness
Mm.
or consciousness.
Hmm.
What lies there for you?
Well, the word ambition is really interesting because it's used in a very specific way. I think, but I think at its core, at its like purest, most innocent place, it's desire, like real heart's desire. It's what you asked at the beginning. What is soul driven mean? It's linking back to that place. Like we all have a drive within us to be, do, or have whatever it is we're driven to be, do, or have. Awareness comes in, right? Because a lot of the time, what we think we're driven to have is our ego telling us you should be, do, or have that thing because that's what a successful person does. That's what a man does. That's what a woman does. That's what a husband does, whatever. And I do think a lot of people get really, really confused because they are quote unquote driven to go experience a certain thing, but that drive is actually coming from a wound. It's coming from trying to feel lovable, not feel like an ugly piece of shit, not feel like whatever it is we feel like. So to me, awareness would come in to help us discern what we're actually being driven by. Am I being driven by my soul right now? Am I being driven by my ego? And I think in entrepreneurship spaces, it's an incredibly important thing to look at. I'm really glad you brought it up because so many times, and I imagine you've probably had similar experiences. I'll be in rooms like at conferences and events, and it's like everyone's goal is to be a millionaire or make $1 million a month or whatever it is. But there's these like very cookie cutter goals, and I'm not trying to make anybody wrong for that, but so much of that is just coming from who someone thinks they're supposed to be. It's not actually coming from your soul doesn't give a shit if you're a millionaire or not. Your soul cares like what you might do with that money. Your soul cares about how you get there. Your soul cares about at the level from which you're serving. And so, especially in the space of entrepreneurship, I think it's an incredibly important distinction to be made and a question to ask. Why do I want the thing that I really want? And it's an incredibly confronting thing to ask because if you're a business owner and you've been aiming at a certain goal or trying to grow your company to a certain size, and you actually sit back and go, well, why do I want that? To truly ask that question might flip your business on its head. It might change the direction of the business. It might change your personal direction. So to truly ask that question, you may be opening the door for massive change. Now, that change will always be a positive and a beautiful one because you're orienting back to your soul and away from your ego. And it can be momentarily destabilizing, let's say it like that. That speak to what you're asking?
100%, yes.
Okay, cool.
And I agree that question, why? I mean, think about when we were kids. That was our favorite question. But why?
Yeah, why?
Like, why did we stop asking that along the way? I think that's the best question to always be asking. And it will lead to the next, but why? If we ask it honestly, right, earnestly.
Yes.
And you're right. If we have been on this path and this trajectory of, revenue generation for the sake of reaching financial milestones or whatever that may be, the asking of the question why is not going to be a popular thing. And I've experienced many times myself and with my clients as well. And I'll say this, that this is a little bit later down my path, a little bit later in life. And when my clients are, at midlife, 50-ish and beyond, this question sort of organically comes up, um, because they have reached those milestones a lot of times and didn't necessarily find that fulfilling.
I think this is so important. Like, when we have a milestone and a goal, and like, I'm not speaking against having financial goals and aims at all. But
Agreed.
when we have those things and they're we maybe haven't examined why we have those as goals, because most of the time we think it's going to provide a fulfillment that it probably won't. The fulfillment will come with growing as a human as we get there. But I'm sure you've seen this. I think you're sort of speaking to it. I certainly have personally, and with many people I work with. When you reach a goal and it doesn't do the thing you think it was going to emotionally and psychologically for you, it's almost worse than not hitting the goal. Like, there can be a certain level of devastation if you think,
Yes.
once I hit $1 million, then I'll be okay. Then I'll be loved. Then I won't be insecure or whatever. And you hit that goal and it doesn't do that. There's no more like safety net for you. There's nothing, there's no guardrails anymore. The thing that you thought would deliver you there didn't. And now it's like, oh my God, what do I now do? Because you have to look within. And I've just seen a lot of people suffer really deeply when they reach that goal. And as you said, it doesn't provide the fulfillment that they thought it would. It's like there's really no plan B there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You think you're going to have this incredible, satisfying, oh, I've made it with experience, and you find you don't. It's almost like the fall from that height is 10 times worse.
Yes.
I'll just tell a short version of one of my experiences of that. I had spent a significant amount of time, maybe a year, writing a book. And this was the first one where I had like a book launch party and a whole setup. And it was the week of my book launch party. And so the book was written, it was published, I had my outfit picked out, all the things. And I felt empty. I didn't feel the way I was expecting to feel at that juncture. And so that was one of the moments that I was able to use my method, because even though nothing happened that triggered me, it was that sense of emptiness. I took the time to dive into that. So when I got into the second step of my method, which is about feeling the feelings without judgment, without trying to work through it, without trying to breathe through it to get through it, right? You just be with what is, which is incredibly challenging for almost everyone,
Oh yeah.
to be with that emptiness. that nothingness. I had this entire experience and I wasn't on psychedelics. And what I experienced was being sort of in this outer space where no one can hear you. No one's coming to save you,
Mhm.
right? And so that was that emptiness, that void, that nothingness. And I was screaming and no sound was coming out. My experience was like, I don't matter. I am not matter. And so on the one hand, you could look at that and go, I don't matter. Oh gosh, no, don't feel that way. But it was a moment of like, oh, I don't matter. My book doesn't matter. Nothing I've ever written or have ever done matters or will ever matter, right? All of that came into my awareness. And then there was a moment in that nothingness, that no thingness, that no matter, where I was like, oh, okay, nothing matters. So I can make it mean whatever I want. I can be whoever I want. I can show up as whoever I want. In other words, from the nothing, I was able to create something for myself.
Mm.
So yeah, it started out really difficult, painful, uncomfortable, confronting, and my willingness to just be fully with what was, not try to fix it or solve it. The awareness, the awakening, if you will, the realization, I get to choose because it doesn't matter.
Yes.
And so that choice came from a greater sense of understanding, not this small, wounded sense of self.
It's such a cool breakthrough moment to, and I hope I'm not like saying something you didn't mean in that experience or experience there. It's such a cool breakthrough moment to be like, oh, I'm launching my book. It's amazing. And get to it and be like, uh-oh, I gave it a certain meaning that it's not really fulfilling right now. But because you were willing to turn into it, feel the feelings with no story, no narrative, and then get to this point where you got to imbue it with the meaning you actually wanted to, like, man, talk about a breakthrough moment. That's incredible.
It was one of the, and you're right, that reflection, you nailed it in way fewer words than I did. But that was a pivotal moment in terms of identity,
Yeah. Yeah.
true identity, not this identity that I thought I was based on my life experience and where I grew up and had blah, 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 you know, the true identity. And from that, choosing who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up. And that was a revelation that I'm so grateful for.
Yeah. And speaking to what I imagine is an audience largely of entrepreneurs on this podcast, like what a critical moment to notice for all of us. Like anyone who runs a business, anyone who's an entrepreneur has their identity wrapped up in being an entrepreneur, a business owner, the success of the business, etc. And while I want everyone to succeed, of course, if our identity, our sense of worth is wrapped up in that, there's a moment of reckoning for all of us. And I would just encourage everybody sooner rather than later to do that work, to have that in what you called a confrontation and internally. So whatever happens with your business, it doesn't move you. It's like you know who you are, regardless of what happens in the business. And the flip side is the more you actually know who you are, regardless of the business, the easier it is to succeed in your business.
Right. And I mean, we have to face that we're in a new paradigm, a changing world. Structures and systems aren't what they were and certainly won't be for much longer. And for those who have woven themselves entirely into an identity as an entrepreneur or anything else, that might come into question. What you've done to get to the level of success that you're at today may no longer work. So
Correct.
having a foundation for who you are, regardless, um, is the most potent and powerful tool you can put in your toolbox for success in a changing world. In a new paradigm, y'all, we're in a new
Yeah.
paradigm.
Yeah.
So don't cling to the past. Turn toward what's true and immovable and immutable within you and create from that place, react or respond rather from that place.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
So, what do you want to take the lead in?
That's a great question. I'm just gonna go. The first thing that comes up is coming up even as you were speaking before asking that question. Like whoever's listening to this right now, wherever it is you want to go, whatever direction you want in your life, your business to go in, the coordinates are within you. They just are. And outside of any strategy, sales funnel, personal growth course, whatever it is, if you're willing to honestly look at yourself, and as Colette said, to feel what you're feeling without making meaning, without making it good or bad, without needing it to be anything other than just feel it and express it and let it move, and you're willing to continuously go back within yourself to look at how you are being the cause of the results you're experiencing, that's all you'll ever really need. Everything else you might need will show up outside of yourself, but it will be the result of looking within first. And I know that's a very simple idea. It's like every spiritual book ever would say something similar. And it's so simple that I think most people, including myself, sometimes overlook it. But overlooking it is where the pain starts. When we start to look outside of ourselves to create the change we want, it makes things a lot harder and it tends to make things take a lot longer.
Amen, man. I can attest to that.
Me too. Me too.
So, what do you see for the future of the work that you're doing?
Hmm. Again, I think I could answer that in a lot of ways. What drives me? I mean, I just care about people, and I can see what people are capable of usually pretty quickly. So I want people to fulfill their capacity. But for me, what lights me up is helping probably a lot of the type of people who are listening to this. I like helping other leaders. I like helping people who have big platforms because it's like instead of trickle down economics, like trickle down awakening, trickle down success. Like when someone changes within, whenever they go express themselves to the world, whether they put that change into words or not, who they're being has changed and that radiates out. People feel that. So I'm most excited, like the cutting edge of where I'm at and what I'm doing is helping people who are then in front of a lot of people because I think that's genuinely the way like the most people get the most help, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. You're speaking my language there. Like,
Yeah,
I'm more than happy to be behind the scenes rather than out on stage,
yeah, me
um,
too.
to make the impact for one individual. So, if someone who is listening to this that is ready to turn inward to, essentially investigate everything that you and I've been talking about here, and
Mhm.
they don't necessarily know where to start, how would you invite them into your world, into a one-on-one conversation with you?
Couple of ways. It's a very generous question. Thank you. One, just honestly reach out to me directly. It's really easy over social. It's really easy over my website. You can get in touch with me directly. If you send a message, I will personally read it. Um, that's a very direct way. And also, if it's a bit more of a soft launch, someone needs to sort of get their feet wet a little bit in this world. Go on YouTube, go on Instagram. I post really consistently and I post because I genuinely just want to help people. I don't post to create a content machine, and I'm not judging
Right.
anyone who does, right? But like, if I've put it up, I mean it with all my heart. And I always try to create in a way that even if someone never watches another video of mine, never talks to me, they can still walk away from that moment with a profound awakening. So the soft launch would be like, go on YouTube and give yourself some time and space quietly to watch and listen. And if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I was ready yesterday, like, let's fucking go, reach out to me directly and I will certainly get back to you quickly and it will be me responding.
Love that.
Yeah.
What's an idea, Tristan, that you wish more leaders would investigate?
Vulnerability.
Okay, say more.
Yeah. That word means a lot of things to a lot of people, but first and foremost, the vulnerability with ourself. It's an honesty with ourself. We think we know ourselves well. And even if we do, there's more to know, but vulnerability can look like slowing down and just literally sitting with yourself in silence and just watching the way your mind works. Vulnerability can look like, and I'm going to say the following specific to men. It applies to them, it applies to everybody, but as a man and in my friendships with other men and just observing other men in this space as well, like there is such a massive opening, especially for leaders, to be vulnerable with other humans. Those of us who are front facing and public facing in our businesses and our brands, it's really natural to have a polished veneer of how we face the world, and that's okay. And the greatest leaps come from being vulnerable first with ourselves and then with others. And I can say definitely in for a lot of men in this world, it's pretty rare to be vulnerable and to share your heart with another human being. And I'll go on a slight tangent, but I'll keep it short. When the fires happened out here in LA a few months ago, a lot of people I love dearly were severely impacted, had their homes destroyed, and their lives flipped upside down. One of the things I noticed in that time was like I couldn't rebuild someone's house. Like I had a couple of friends stay here, but I couldn't like house everybody. But one of the things I could always do was with vulnerability, reach out and be like, how are you doing for real? Just a text, didn't have to be a phone call. There's an intimacy of that. There's a vulnerability. And I hoped in that moment people could really feel my heart because I really was feeling for people. And just reaching out sometimes, I saw how much that touched people. And I wasn't super directly impacted by the fires, like my home wasn't destroyed, but I was close, and people I love dearly were. And I know how much it meant to have someone openly and vulnerably reach out to me and just be like, are you okay? I'm really thinking about you. Sometimes just that can change someone's life. And it sounds so fucking simple. And it is. It really is that simple. But the ripple effects are profound. So a vulnerability with oneself, sit quietly for 10 minutes, and be like, how am I really doing today? Underneath the mantras, underneath the visualization, like, how is my heart today? Reaching out to others with great vulnerability. And I'm not even talking from a business perspective, just as a human. Just go, hey, you're on my mind. I care about you and love you. Just something as simple as that is a complete paradigm shifter. And that's the thing, like it was on my mind and in my heart before these fires happened and was ramped up through it. But I think it might be the greatest service we can render. The greatest gift we can give to other people is our open heart, because when we come together with another human and we're open in that way, the way God gets to express through both of us there is like unprecedented.
Yeah, beautifully said. Like I'm just taking a moment to take that in and feel
Yeah.
that resonance.
And it's something you don't need a guidebook to do. It's something you don't need to be a master or an expert to do. It's like anyone listening to this, if there's someone you love who's on your mind, like pick up your phone while you're listening and send them a text that's like, I love and appreciate you. And you don't need anything back from them. It's like you're giving the gift of your attention, of your heart, of your vulnerability. You have no idea the way that that can bless somebody and change their life, as well as your own.
Yeah, really beautiful. What else would you like to share that I haven't asked?
Hmm. We covered a lot at great depth. I'll double down on something I think that I said before, which is if you're listening to this, whether or not you consider yourself already very successful, if there's more that you want to experience, there's a dream in your heart, et cetera, like it's there for a reason. There is a pathway to it, or the dream wouldn't exist. And the pathway begins and ends within yourself. Your own awareness is what will show you the next external steps to take. Again, it's very simple, but it's the thing that's almost always overlooked. We will almost always look outside of ourselves first because that tends to be more comfortable than looking within. And, if you're really ready to make a leap, reach out to someone like Colette, reach out to someone like myself who can help make that journey quicker, easier, and more enjoyable, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for diving into this conversation and sharing, opening up your heart and your world with me and with our audience. I I've really enjoyed it. Like I have a huge smile on my face. So thank you, Tristan.
You're welcome. The smile's mutual. We're not on camera right now, as you guys heard at the beginning, but yeah, the smile's mutual. And thank you for having me. Like I said, when you first connected, this was such a clear yes for me to come on, and the last hour confirms why for me.
Yeah, right on. All right, you guys, thank you for tuning in today. I would encourage you, if something was stimulated in you as during this conversation, that you do reach out to Tristan. He's made it real easy for you to do so. And then also, if you'd like to have this type of conversation with me as a guest on Soul Driven, you can go to souldriven.org. Thanks so much, you guys. Thanks, Tristan.
Thanks. Bye bye.